Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3 back here with another video. And yes, I know eventually I am gonna do my October pay-per-view review of WWF In Your House 11 Buried Alive. And trust me, that's coming, but this is just me talking about stuff that I will never review. When it comes to the wrestling pay-per-views. And there's a lot of wrestling pay-per-views out there. Not just WWE, WCW, ECW, or stuff like that. But also you got the TNA slash Impact pay-per-views. And then there's also the Ring of Honor shows and New Japan stuff. Now, there's just a lot of pay-per-views that I'm going to talk about that I will never review. Case in point, whether they be highly praised or highly despised, these are just pay-per-views in general that I'm not going to talk about during my retro pay-per-view review series. So, these are pay-per-views I am not going to review. This is not a countdown. This is just me talking about pay-per-views I will never review. And at the tippy top of the list of pay-per-views I will never review, ECW December to Dismember 2006. I mean, a lot of people... I have not watched that show yet. And after all the negative stuff I hear about it, I don't plan to review it, especially when they talk about how bad the Extreme Elimination Chamber was, but if I did talk about that match in a list of the worst Elimination Chamber matches video, that if I ever did that, then yeah, that match would totally be on there, but honestly, I just don't plan to review it anytime soon. I mean, I am still going to review bad pay-per-views, but December to Dismember is just not going to be on that long list. I'm not going to review it. Next up, and we go to WCW, and that is Bash at the Beach 2000. Case in point, I'm not going to review Bash at the Beach 2000 because, everyone has already ripped into that show. I mean, sure, I could say that promo by Vince Russo was probably one of the worst fucking promos ever. And yeah, Bash at the Beach 2000 not only was known for the whole Jeff Jarrett laying down for Hulk Hogan thing, but you also had the Graveyard match on top of that with Vampiro and the Demon, and the Kiss Demon. It was also the very last Bash at the Beach pay-per-view. It was the pay-per-view that killed Bash at the Beach because it was WCW 2000, and 2000, they killed a lot of their pay-per-views that year, and 2000 was one of the worst fucking years of any it was probably the worst company year for any wrestling company. Well, except for the World Wrestling Federation, they were still doing good, but WCW Bash at the Beach 2000, I will never review that show. But I will review Great American Bash 2000, despite how cringy it made me want to cringe. Compared to Bash at the Beach, though, I hear a lot of people say that the Bash at the Beach was a lot worse than the Great American Bash, though I definitely think Great American Bash 2000 was much cringier, and same could be said for New Blood Rising. It's definitely along on the list. But speaking of New Blood Rising, I'm never going to review that show either. So yes, I would have the balls to review Great American Bash 2000, but why not New Blood Rising? Well, New Blood Rising was just stupid as hell. It was not only stupid, but it was just much more cringier than Great American Bash was, and I definitely say in a lot of sense it was on that same level of meatball-headedness that Bash at the Beach 2000 was on, if not more. So, yeah, New Blood Rising. Definitely not going to review that one. So, yeah. So now we go back to WWE for our next pay-per-view that's going to be talked about, of pay-per-views I will never review. And I just gotta say, the Unholy Trilogy in 2004. And that is Judgment Day 04, Great American Bash 2004, and, if I'm not mistaken, Armageddon 2004. Now, Armageddon 2004 it was a one-match show, and only one good match came out of that show, and that was the Fatal 4-Way for the WWE Championship between The Undertaker, Eddie Guerrero, JBL, and Booker T. While the rest of the show was either bullshit or just ridiculous stupidity. I mean, seriously, Kurt Angle wrestled twice on that show, and the first match you have him in, he's wrestling a guy dressed as Santa. What the fuck? I know it was just made as a squash match, but this was stupid. It was probably one of the more stupider things you could have had Kurt Angle do. Yes, I know the main event spot was filled, and yes, I know SmackDown in 2004 was not a good year, but god damn it, it was still pretty fucking bad. Great American Bash 2004, the main event was fucking trash. So was the rest of this show. And if we're talking about trashiest parts of Great American Bash 2004, especially we're talking about the main event between The Undertaker and the Dudley Boys in a concrete crypt match with Paul Bearer tied up. And here's the thing. Bearer was tied up in this crypt or something like that, this glass case, and cement would pour down on him, and Paul Heyman, issued an ultimatum to The Undertaker saying to do the right thing. And most of this match was fucking stupid, and having to be interrupted by Paul Heyman on the microphone, and this was probably one of the worst things that was ever booked, with Heyman, Taker, and the Dudley Boys in this whole storyline. The whole storyline was fucking stupid. Like, with Heyman having the Dudley Boys kidnap Paul Bearer. And yes, I know they killed Paul Bearer off just because of the fact that, yes, he was taking time off, especially since the fact that his wife passed away, and Paul Bearer himself is no longer with us. R.I.P. Paul Bearer. You will be missed, my friend. Yeah. But, yeah, this was fucking trash. And then Judgment Day 2004. Which, okay. This show was pretty stupid for the whole Chavo Guerrero versus Jacqueline for the Cruiserweight Championship, and Chavo having to wrestle Jacqueline with one hand. And, of course, this also having to have Booker T versus The Undertaker, and Booker T gets a bag of dirt thinking that it's going to help him beat The Undertaker. And sadly, yeah, it just was not a good show at all. I mean, you had Scotty 2 Hotty being booked in a squash match with Mordecai. You had Tori Wilson having to compete for her career against Dawn Maria in a very lackluster match. And I know Tori and Dawn were not strong as in-ring competitors, but you know, it was what it was, and I know if it hadn't been for the likes of Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Sasha Banks with their whole match at WrestleMania 32, having to change the perspective of the WWE fans of women's wrestling, then it made sense. It made sense that women's wrestling was starting to become a thing. And hell, it's the reason why WWE this year had women main event WrestleMania 35, having a big name like Ronda Rousey along with Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch being in the main event. And now, since I'm not just talking about pay-per-views I will never review, now there's a buttload of these pay-per-views, and it's from one particular company, and that's Impact. Reason why is because I don't have a big connection with Impact, or more specifically, I just am not, that much, in terms of a big Impact fanboy. I don't hate Impact / TNA as a company. I can respect them for, having talents like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, Austin Aries. I can respect this company for, those stars coming out and becoming big name stars in the business of professional wrestling. Just, I haven't been as invested in TNA as a company. But I know there are wrestling YouTubers who are invested as Impact as a company. So at least Impact, I can give it that. But I just will not review any TNA pay-per-views. I'm sorry. I just don't have a big connection with TNA as much as they do. And now another one I will never review. I will never ever review, and this is the last pay-per-view I am going to mention. What was it? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Oh, right. I will never, and I repeat, never review basically, I will... Oh, man. Let's see. And... Okay. Never mind. I just can't think of it. But anyway, this has been your Digital Super Saiyan 3. And I'll see you next time for In Your House Buried Alive.